Mary. Today is the great feast day of the presentation of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Do you know what it's about? Oh. Yeah, it's about the presentation of Mary in the temple to basically become like a nun. Did you know that she lived that way for a while? When she was a young girl, she was brought to the temple, and it was a tradition that the Jewish people had, but it was pretty rare. It was very rare for a young girl to dedicate herself to live like a nun, to live a celibate life, an unmarried life. So she did that for a while. We don't know how long. When was she brought to the temple? How long did she stay there? We're not sure. But we do know that at a certain point, living like a nun, she had made a promise, like a nun does or a priest, to live a single life, a celibate life. So much to her surprise, when the priests in the temple said that it was time for her to get married, she says, wait, but I made this promise to God, but now I'm being told that I should marry. And so she was obedient, and they wanted to bring in suitors who would be the one to marry the Blessed Virgin Mary. She was known. The Blessed Mother was known for her holiness. She was known to be a saint. And she was also known to be the one that everybody wanted to be married to. So a lot of young men came forward. They wanted to marry the Blessed Virgin Mary. But everybody knew she was special, and so they prayed, and they collected the staves. They wanted to pray and let God decide who should marry the Virgin Mary. So they took all the men's staves, and they put them on the altar, and left them in the temple as they prayed for a period of time. When their prayer was over and they went back into the temple, one staff blossomed with beautiful flowers, and they looked to see whose staff it was. They said, this is the one who God has picked to marry the most special woman in the world. Guess whose staff it was? St. Joseph. That's why you often see his staff with blossomed lilies coming out of the top. It reminds us of this event where he was chosen to be the spouse of the Mother of God. But we still have this problem to deal with. She made a promise to remain a virgin, but now she's getting married. St. Joseph was okay with that. He wanted to do that too. So it was a unique relationship where they were married, but they both were committed to living celibate lives. There's a modern example of this. Do you know whose saint her parents also had decided that they were going to do that? Saint Therese. Saint Therese, the little flower. Her parents, who are also saints, Saint Louis and Zélie, when they first got married, he wanted to be a priest, she wanted to be a nun, and when they got married, they wanted to live, and they did live as Mary and Joseph. They lived celibately until there was a priest who got involved, and he counseled them and said, listen, you're supposed to have kids. And it's a good thing they did, because all their kids became saints too. But they got the idea from Mary and Joseph. We're going to be married, but we're going to live celibately. But Mary and Joseph settled that problem of, hey, we both wanted to be completely devoted to God, but God has made it clear he wants us to be married, and so how do we do that? And that's what they decided. They would marry, but they would remain virgins. So this day celebrates this presentation of Mary when she began her life in the temple almost as a nun. And God was preparing her to become the true temple. Mary was going to become the place where God lived, where God dwelt. Not the physical temple in Jerusalem, but inside of her. She becomes the Ark of the Covenant. She becomes the presence of God. The Holy Spirit was preparing her to become the spouse of God. We call Mary, mystically, we call her the spouse of the Holy Spirit. And what that means is she never resisted the Holy Spirit. She was totally given over to the Holy Spirit. It was as if she had had a mystical marriage with the Holy Spirit. But for that to come to full completion, and for her to become so filled with the Holy Spirit that she brings God literally into the world in the incarnation, God led her to marry an earthly man. For the Holy Spirit to become fully more flowing through her, St. Joseph was needed. So I will say that for you and for me today, we also need St. Joseph to unleash the Holy Spirit in our lives. The more you have a relationship with St. Joseph, the more he's the head of your household, the more he's the protector of your soul, the more the Holy Spirit will flow through you. The Virgin Mary is proof of that. So today, one way you can get closer to St. Joseph is a new book that came out from the priest who wrote Consecration to St. Joseph, Father Calloway. How many of you did that book, Consecration to St. Joseph? A few of you. Well, I was asking Father Calloway for a long time, and I was praying, I wish he would write a book, not just a consecration to St. Joseph, but a consecration to the Holy Family together. Guess what? He did it. It's out. Consecration to the Holy Family. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a game changer. So I would recommend either of his books. Consecration to St. Joseph was very good. He has lots of books on the Virgin Mary, which are very good. But there's something really important for our time and our world. We have to put the Holy Family together. So it's good to look at each person individually. Jesus, of course, the Virgin Mary, St. Joseph, look at them individually. But there's also something about them together as a whole. They're a team, they're a package, they're a family, they're the Holy Family. So I'd encourage you to get closer to St. Joseph, and one way you may do that is through Father Calloway's book, The Consecration to the Holy Family. So look into it. It could be a game changer. I know it will be, but maybe it's the one for you. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.